Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Computer Wednesday, we're going to talk about smartphone evolution. So let's dive right into it. So why we are talking about it now? Well, reality is at this point in time, you must have noticed it that we have reached stagnation, and this Samsung S23 Ultra was kind of a big shot to the industry where people are like, dude, if something as big as Samsung is reaching a point where it's like one model is not that much different from the last one, we are reaching stagnation, and you can see that across all brands, even in iPhones, like it's not that much different. So we are reaching a point where we no longer have exponential progress, meaning back in the old days, we had 512 megabytes of RAM. People were like, whoa. Then we jump to 1 gigabyte. It's like, whoa. Now we have 8 GB and nobody even cares about. Now, does that mean we're going to have like same growth in the future? No. We have reached what we call point of, minimal returns or point of diminishing return. Same reason happened with the desktop. Basically, we went from few kilobytes of RAM to few gigabytes, but we kind of stagnated around few gigabytes of RAM because it does not make that much sense to have 128 gigabyte of RAM. Will we have that? Over time, slowly we'll reach that, but it won't be very quick. Like nowadays, many people still have 16 GB of RAM in their computers, in their laptops, and some of you may be unlucky enough to have 8 GB system. But you get the point. Like we are no longer jumping that exponential progress. And S curve have been reached its plateau. What does that mean? That simply means every technology, take whatever technology you have launch point where people start to jump into it. Then you have sweet spot. Basically, progress happens exponentially. You go from one model to another and there is a marketable change. It's like, whoa, I could not have done this, to like, whoa, this is amazing. And this is happening year over year. Every year models is awesome. Then you reach a mastery level where companies kind of settle down, where they're like, we have figured it out. This is the model, this is the basically lineup, discipline, architecture, they have sorted all of those out, and then you reach mastery and everything looks the same. Same happened with car companies. You could have noticed that majority of car looks more or less the same. Why? We had 1 century of this sweet spot where all the R&D has been done, and at this point in time it's like, hey, can we make exponentially different car? Yes. Will we make it? If you are willing to pay for it. Most people are not willing to pay for it, so we do not get it. So we have reached that S-curve plateau where it's like this mobile phone model will look more or less the same in future also. Of course, they will move around the camera bump, have this or that, but it will look more or less same. We have reached that plateau. And it's a very good thing from an e-waste point of view that we no longer need the latest model. Meaning back in the days, jumping from model to model was kind of compulsory. Like the jump was like, whoa. If you have ever compared any mobile phone that was releasing, let's say 2010 versus 2011, you're like, how the heck you made that much progress in 1 year? That's how big the shock was. But started to slow down. Like in 2015, you were like, you know what, I can hold out. I can hold out. In 2020, 2023 specifically, you were like, do I really need to upgrade? Like, it's not that much like, whoa, there. It's like, oh, you went from 100 megapixel to 200 megapixel. Whoa. It's like, oh, your battery is like a bit better. Whoa. That's what happening. It's like it's reaching a point where it's no longer need to upgrade to the newer system. So things have reached their final state, meaning will they change? Not exponentially, not that much. It will look more or less the same in the future. So things have reached their final state, and very low chance of what we call paradigm shift, meaning will we deviate from this black slab kind of design structure? No, most likely no. Like the likelihood is that all we're gonna do is make them even more boxier, where we're like, they will not have any bumps, everything would be smooth. They may get a display on the other side also, maybe, but nothing major, nothing like futuristic. And I don't get it, like why the heck science fiction writer always put transparent communicators in the future. It's like it will give you bad headache if you look something transparent. It's like that's stupid. So let's come to the camera. Now, why camera? Camera is the most commonly focused point, meaning every Tom, Dick and Harry is like, hey, how's the camera? So consequence of that is camera companies, as in like be it Hasselblad, be it Sony, all of them are working with the mobile companies to make sure the mobiles are awesome. That's where a lot of money is going. So right now a new buzzword must be coming around, that is pixel binning. What is pixel binning? Basically you have this, you have to understand all camera sensors, basically CMOS or CCD generally is just a light sensor. All it tells you intensity of light, it does not tell you the color. So to get color on top of it or out of it, so to say, we put a color filter on there, this bare grid bare pattern. So benefit of this pattern is this replicates human eyes behavior. So you have 50% green, 25% red, 25% blue. That's why like they are double green. The benefit of that, that's how our eyes work. So we perceive a lot more data in green rather than in blue or red. So, but again, we do need blue or red, otherwise it will not work. So this is how we create. I mean, somebody figured out what if we put this pattern there. Now, will this have same resolution as this one? Yes. Will it have same color resolution? No. Because again, if you look at this pixel, if you look at any pixel in any photograph in a computer software, you'll notice it has all three data, RGB. So how the heck you got the value of, like, if the sensor only told you green, how the heck you got the data for red and blue? You did not merge them, you did not made it smaller. You can do that, but what people do is like run through it algorithm known as demosaic, where you're like, green, what's supposed to be here? Like, what green data should be there? It will calculate based on these 3 pixels or all 4 pixels around it. So that's how they imagine what green supposed to be here. That's why broadcasting industry hates this technology. Broadcasting industry, generally they have a wave splitter where they'll have 3 sensors, red, blue, green. So all pixel data is true data. And again, same is also done for industrial sector also, where they need true data, they will use 3 sensor system. This is a very good approximation. So this gives you even worst approximation in terms of color, but it does give you higher basically ability to scale down the technology, meaning you can pretend that it's a half resolution camera. Now you're like, why the heck you will pretend that? Well, it allows you to half the noise. Basically, low light performance goes up because you're pretending one sector is 1 pixel. Now, will that be as good as a true pixel? Hell no. Like, if you are taking a 100 megapixel system, shrinking it down to 12 megapixel, basically the final Android 5 sizes, will that 12 megapixel be better than a native 12 megapixel? Hell no. Then why the heck people do that? Again, it's not something you should do in low light performance, but it is something you should do if you have very bright light scenario, meaning if you are using a camera that has pixel binning, and if you take a photo in broad daylight where you have a lot of light, it will be like damn awesome. Why? Because it does get the structural data, the black and white data that has the shape, patterns, profile, tessellation data, all that data is there, that will translate. But consequence of that, because of the pixels are so small, it will only translate if you have a lot of light. So pixel binning is one of those technology where it's like Apple kind of like not really that beneficial, and they only jumped from 12 to 48 when they had every other technology in the supply chain to be like, it's good. So again, do not jump pixel bin like, whoa. It's like, it's a good technology if you have a lot of light, but not that amazing. And that's why like iPhone photos were like that good, even though they had like only 12 megapixel. Because again, after pixel binning, you reach to 12 megapixel. A native 12 megapixel will bitch slap it. So, but again, if you have AI into the mix, AI may be able to paint the image if it has better texture resolution. Basically, if it has more pattern data, maybe it's able to do a better job, which we are starting to see now in Android. So that's why like pixel binning, it's one of those technology that it will not last forever. Basically, it's a bridge technology. Then we come to the folded periscope. Now this is amazingly development for optics, because again, either you can have a crappy sensor and amazing lens and you're gonna get good output, or you can have like amazingly latest and greatest sensor and garbage lens and you're gonna get garbage out. So optics matter. And this periscope design was like a very big hot thing. Now, if you're old enough, as in like 60 years old, you must have remembered like back in the day, Sony used to have handy cams or cyber shots, so to say, which had floppy disk as a memory. They had like this periscope design. Even many point and shoot ruggedized camera also had this design. So basically camera lens does not jot out. It was always there and there was a prism there. So somebody miniaturized it enough where it can be put into mobile phone. Back in the days, everybody is like 2014, 15, I was like, dude, this is too complex. Nowadays, every Samsung phone has it, and even iPhone will have it in 2 generations. So this is a really amazing technology, and I'm just waiting for somebody to put like 2-3 of this. Basically, you'll have one from wide to ultra wide, one from like medium to tele. That will be awesome, because again, you can simulate a optical system, or you can just have the optical system. Have the optical system, it's always better. So just have that. So this is a development that slowly over time will trickle down to every mobile phone. Then we come to the one of the great innovation is single shot HDR. Right now, if you take any phone, like let's say Pixel phone, you take a photo. What does it does is like it takes 4 photos in same section. Basically, you clicked it, it's like it did burst of 4. Now that 4 data, it will mix it. Like one would be underexposed, one would be overexposed, one would be, it will do all that and then mix it. Awesome. The result is truly high quality HDR image and people are like happy with it. Consequence, it does not work with motion, meaning if you are moving or the subject is moving, it does not work that well. Again, you took 4 photos. How the heck all 4 photos will line up? It won't. So what we need is what we call single shot HDR technology. I made a detailed video about it. The idea is some companies are claiming that they are achieved it, or maybe they have, is that in this scenario, each half of the pixel, basically another pixel would be basically connected to either separate electronics or may have be shaded. Because you have to understand that sensor only has one vector of control. Basically, how does it control itself? It's exposure time. How long does it? It's like shutter speed. Other than that, there is no control. You're like, what about ISO? ISO is a after gain that you apply to the basically analog to digital converter. And that's why, like, if you have any camera, if you take the raw photo, you don't have to worry about ISO. So same goes here also. So you only have exposure control. So how do you get HDR in one shot? You change the exposure. Basically, half of the pixel are acting like, let's say you took a photo that is 1/30th of a second, it will take 1/30th of a second, which we'll call long integration time. Another photos pixels would be acting like 1/300th of a second. That would be short integration time. Benefit of that is it will have less motion blur. AI can use that layer as in like, hey, this is the motion blur. Paint the data from the blurry one into this. Basically, take the color from the blurry one, structure from this one, and voila, you have single shot HDR. That's the whole point. Single shot HDR. That's what we are working towards. Can we achieve it? Yes, right now we can achieve it. There are many industrial cameras that already do that. And like some Canon cameras can achieve 21 stops of dynamic range. That's stupidly high, meaning there is nothing, almost it matches human eye level. But it's not because again, it has many segments. So here I'm talking about 2 segments. That puppy has 700 segments. Each of them can be individually controlled. So it's still far away, but that's something that will happen over time to our smartphone. Homogeneous sensor quality. This is a very bad thing for Samsung. Basically, I have this mid-range Samsung phone, not even mid-range, it's like low end, F62. So this puppy has a good, like I think 64 megapixel or something like that. That's good. Okay. Here's the ultra wide is so bad that it reminds me of my Sony Ericsson K810i, like cyber shot camera. That was much better than the ultra wide of this. Does it have to be? No, but what they did is like 64 megapixel, put 8 megapixel outdated sensor technology. Like it's not the same 8 megapixel or 10 megapixel they put in their ultra lineup. It's like garbage 8 megapixel. So that's really bad for Android right now. It's like homogeneous sensor is compulsory. So you do not have like, oh, I took ultra wide, so it looks garbage. That's not acceptable. And this in this work, I do respect Apple engineers where they're like, dude, everything has to be 12 megapixel. We'll focus on the lens and outcome would be awesome. I respect that. Hardware and all of this, again, this creates too much data. For us, it's not that useful, but for hardware neural network engines, it's very useful. And that's why you will always hear every company is talking about, hey, we have this engine, that AI and all that. All that data will be compressed with, basically combined with AI, output will be GG images. So this is where we're going to notice most of the things, specifically with single shot true HDR, not that pixel where it's like, no, true HDR. And folded optics. Now we have to understand the worst thing that happened to humanity in 1980s is that we figured out filtering. I have no idea what had happened. If you know when that started, because the oldest I can find is like 1980s, is that somebody smoked too much weed, like poor quality weed, like really bad quality weed, and they just started pooping out models. Now this happened like very early on, like there were TVs, like you know, catalogs were coming in books. Basically, instead of making few models, they were making thousands of models. And each model was just minor different with another. It was just e-waste era. And unfortunately, nobody has fixed it. I do respect Apple in this regard, is that they're like, hey, one iPhone, the end. They had one iPhone for so long, and they're like, hey, one big iPhone, awesome. One small iPhone, awesome. One poor people iPhone, awesome. Done. Like each had clear reason, each had clear design. While Samsung, brrr, it's like somebody has loose motion. It's like, brrr. Like this is modern time. Again, this is a bit old, 2015 I think. But this is modern. Like right now I'm making the video, I took this from Amazon. Again, there's like price jumps are so tiny. It's like 17,999, 14,999, 15,599. It's like, dude, throw half of it away, you will have a clear decision where people will be like, hey, I bought a 15,000 phone or I bought a 20,000, like clear cut steps. And there will be a reason for it. If you make it too tight, it's like you yourself would be confused, like which function to add, which function to remove. And then the audience would be like, what function is more important for me? What is not that important? It's like everybody loses in this regard. So this pooping model out is like really, really, really bad. Like Samsung is on ultra weed. That weed is giving 150 models per year. And here's still, I'm talking about model when you're changing RAM. I'm not talking model when you are changing memory capacity. That's not a model change. But if you're changing RAM, that is a model change. Why? Because your SoC will behave differently. And that should never be an option. This is another aspect of Apple. They're like, never give RAM option. Why not? Here's the RAM changes your perception. This is a phone that was available in 3 RAM options, 4GB, 6GB, 8GB. What does that mean? That simply means companies, when they are giving it out for reviews, they will sell you, hey, 8 gigabyte. And you're gonna review it, make a YouTube video about it, everybody's awesome about it. It's like, hey, this is awesome. They will say price starting from. Now that starting price is for 4 gigabyte. Now if you are not tech savvy person, you just paid for the money, you got the 4 GB one, you use it. Your experience would be exponentially worse compared to 8 GB variant, because again, that had 8 GB of RAM. So once you start to fill up with apps, you start to open multiple apps, you're like, hey, this phone does not look the way it looked in my review video. That's why you never give RAM option. And you're like, oh, person wants choice. No, person wants a definite choice. It's like this or this. It should not be like maybe this, maybe that. Like worst case scenario, you can pay a lot of money to get 8 GB variant. At that point in time, you will hate yourself because you could have bought a Snapdragon processor. This has Exynos. Snapdragon one better CPU with 6 GB RAM. You see the paradox? You never want RAM as an option. RAM should not be an option. If you want to upgrade RAM, like iPhone does, you create an ultra model where it's like, dude, better RAM, go for more money. So this is the worst thing. Like RAM should not be an option, and that's why this price gap is that bad. Like you can go into 15,000, click 8 GB one, and you're like, now you will pay as much as like say 17,000, but this may have better CPU. What the hell? Because again, each SoC has an optimum cost ratio. Whereas like at this price point, this CPU is awesome. At that price point, there is only one amount of RAM that is awesome for it. Whereas like, dude, for the price that we want to sell, only this RAM is enough. We cannot afford to put more than that. If you do, we end up increasing its price to next bracket. You see the mess? You do not want this mess. You do not want this. Like I truly wanted, like, basically nothing phone to be like, hey, let's not give RAM option. So they have 8 GB, 8 GB and 12 GB. And I was like, this is basically OnePlus, 8 GB and 16 GB. Why? Just have one model. Like, hey, 8 GB is optimum, that's it. And again, this is another reason why nobody can optimize Android properly, because again, how the OS expands itself is directly proportional to how much RAM it has. And if you're like, hey, some has 8 GB, some has 4 GB, it's like, operating system designer would be like, do I design it for 8 GB or do I design it for 4 GB? Again, it would be fundamentally different. And if they do not use more GB RAM, people will like, dude, what's the point of buying? You see, there is a paradox. That's why you never give RAM as an option. It could be clear fucks, like for this price, you get this much capacity RAM, you don't talk about RAM. And no company can polish each model, because again, if you are releasing this much model, even if you have a huge team of amazingly smart people, you're gonna go to them, hey, this model, polish it. Okay, they start to work on it and they're like, hey, new model, polish it. They're like, hey, new model, different RAM, polish it. Here, new model, different. They're like, what the hell? It's never gonna work. That's why no Android has the true polish of iPhone. It's not that it does not have the horsepower or does not have the efficiency or all that. It has everything. It's just that somebody in the product, managers category is smoking weed. That's it. There is nothing more than that. It's like engineers, awesome. Product manager, whew. That's the whole point. That's why nobody can polish it. iPhone is really wise in this regard. It's like few models. Well, again, RAM capacity should be locked. Memory capacity, that's up to you. Again, you can do even better. Give memory card. It's like, hey, for low price, I cannot actually give you 256 GB of capacity. Again, I can give you, but it will be inferior quality. So I will not give you inferior quality. I'll give you an option. If you use 128 GB, use SD card if you really need more. Awesome. But they're like, what if we give you inferior to 56 GB? I'm like, and it does matter. Again, if your efficiency directly translates to your memory speed. If your memory is slow, everything else is slow. That's the whole problem, side effect of this flooding. Then we come to the lifespan. Thankfully, this part has improved a lot, meaning things last when they reach a maturation. Because back, like we always say, oh, old car used to last. No, they did not. Like back in the days, if anybody has driven cars in like early 80s, they're like, dude, cars used to break down a lot, like a lot. Nowadays, as long as car can start, most of the time it will like, bro, I got you. Like if cars were not this reliable, like repairing car, why do you think all the old movies have like, person working at a car? It's like car was not that reliable. Old mobile phones were not that reliable. If you are old enough, you must have remembered the early color phones. If you press the screen too hard, it changed the color because they had poor grade TN panels. It no longer happens. We don't even think about it. That's the whole thing. It's really matured. The design matured. PCB layout matured. Screws, fasteners, glue, everything is mature. So it's a very drop resistant. Back in the days, people were like, okay, let me put it. Now, who cares? So it's very drop resistant. Water, unfortunately, I don't have this one, but most of you may have it, water resistance. And these are awesome. Like back in the days, if you're, hey, we're going to make a glass electronic that's going to be waterproof and drop resistant, they're like, dude, who's your supplier, my man? But we have it. And it's also bend resistance. While we are making it as thin as possible, it's also resisting that. If you bend it, it bends backwards and it does not damages itself. Watch basically Zach's video of bending a 10-inch Samsung tablet. It fought back. 10-inch tablet did not broke. It's like engineering, I'm pretty sure Samsung engineer is like top notch. Is that the product manager have some poor weed. So All of this being achieved, and Android has proper update now, because if you are remember, as in like 2010s box, all Android box always had which Android it had, like did it had Genil Bin, did it had Oreo, did it had basically KitKat. It has to be said, because again they're not going to get any updates. But nowadays Google had worked a lot, and all other companies also have worked a lot to create a what we call onion infrastructure. Basically Samsung, what they do is on the top layer. So if Google changes a core thing, it does not affect the top layer. So Samsung can get the data from Google as quickly as Google launches it, and Google basically Samsung can dump it into a basically ecosystem without any basically delay, rather than delays of months. Not the delays like few days. And again, of course, they will do a sanity check, safety check, but if it clears it, boom, updates, quick, efficient. Even whole OS update is happening, and I'm talking about mid-range Samsung phones. Even my old Samsung phone, Samsung M30, that got update recently, and that's a 3 years old phone. Like a low-end 3-year-old phone is getting updates now. Flagships are getting 4 full complete updates, and Samsung is saying over a few years every phone will get that much, and I do believe them. Again, I have seen their track record, so they can do that, and that's really awesome. Like you can have a phone and you can be like, dude, everything is here. I don't have to worry too much about it. And because of this gentleman, Louis Rossmann, we have right to repair. Again, right of repair. Again, I do not know whether it's actually winning or losing, but they are fighting, and I'm happy and I'm proud of that. And the idea is, there is only 2 things that actually break in majority of mobile phone. One is battery, another is display. If you can replace these 2 things, your phone can last, rather than 3 years, it can easily last 6 years. Nowadays, specifically with software update, you actually have no reason to do that. But what actually wears down your mobile phone is the battery. Why? It's a chemical system. It has chemical pile up. So if you keep charging it, it swells up. If you keep it discharged, swells up. It physically gets damaged. So you have to heat it. But again, back in the days, it was super easy. If you remember Nokia, you had a plastic cover, you removed your BL5C battery, done, put a new one, go home. We could not do that anymore. So this has to be changed. And again, that's the whole point of right to repair. Is like, do not create unnecessary e-waste. If you can replace the battery, get a useful performance back, why not use it? And the only thing, other thing that will wear down if you keep doing this, like what if I keep doing this for 10 years, your memory will die. Because again, memory have what we call electron gate. Those gate do wear out. That's what we, back in the days of SSD, we used to call trim leveling. Wear leveling, sorry, wear leveling. It does wear out. So of course, again, SD card will also save that. So if majority of OS is dealing with a card, but everything else that you can dump into SD card takes the majority of the brunt. Once the SD card wears out, you can put a new one. Again, it generally happens very long ago, long as in like 4 or 5 years of users. But again, you could have extended that. That's the another limiting factor. Even if you replace the battery, that will be the wear limitation. Again, it's not going to happen anytime soon, but it does happen over time. So don't expect 50 years of lifespan. Then we come to the final stage of mobile phone, because what a mobile phone really is basically a computer on my pocket. So do this have a horsepower to replace a computer? Yes, yes, dear. This was my first computer, like Inspiron Dell 535S. This puppy has, let's say, X amount of horsepower, as in teraflops, how much compute it can do for the given energy. Not as in like given energy, as in like how much it can actually do. This puppy surpasses it exponentially, meaning this has more RAM than that. That has 4 GB DDR2, this puppy has 8 GB. So fundamentally, it has the horsepower. And then we come to, okay, how the heck am I going to connect anything to it? You can connect keyboard and mouse Bluetooth wise. And what about display? You can display wirelessly, but again, it's not a good idea. It will have compression effects and not to mention lag also. But you can use USB-C. Thanks to USB-C's open standard, it has display output support built into it. Meaning you do not have to create custom protocol. Back in the days when Samsung was trying with DeX, they had custom docks needed for that. Now they no longer do that. USB-C, take it, go home, done. So that is there, a proper support. So what's the limitation? If we have the horsepower, we have the technology to connect it, which you may already have. Why don't we do it? Well, the problem is the user interface. Meaning, you both display could have full HD. Your mobile phone does have full HD. Here's the deal. You cannot port this interface into this. Why? Icons will be this big. It's not designed to work what we call PPI, pixel per inch. It's designed for different PPI compared to your monitors. Monitors expect, like say 100 PPI. Your mobile phone developers are working on 400 PPI. So fundamentally, this cannot port to this. So somebody has to sit down and create a different software layer where it's like, okay, core will remain the same. It's just that UI will detect, hey, desktop mode or mobile mode. Mobile mode, mobile interface, working on thumb. A desktop interface designed to work on mouse pointer, tiny things. Or like, large surface area, low DPI, as in like 200 DPI versus 72 DPI, those sort of thing. So if somebody solves that, we can truly do that. And thankfully, Samsung Desk has been working on his background. And if your job includes basically writing emails, doing some paperwork, and like, Excel sheet and all that jazz, right now you can do this on a system and you will not miss your laptop. That's how good Samsung Desk is today. And again, imagine if Google was like, okay, this is it. We're gonna make our Android operating system into a proper desktop operating system. It will take some time before we have like, professional level functions. But right now, as a basic compute device, we are there already. So that's the evolution that we need to support. And thanks to foldable, I think that support is going to happen far more quickly. Because again, what's the point of foldable if all you do is open it up and it does not actually change that much? It's just like, oh, we instead of 4 icons, we have 8 icons. That's not that useful. But again, if you change the scale of the interface, it's like, now I can do more. That's what we want. Samsung Desk is a very great approach. And again, same product manager, it's like this thing should have been like, again, it's a very old technology. They have been working on it background wise. It should have started to trickle down to their base level, but they're no, this is only available in Ultra. It's like, make this basic thing. Everybody will like, dude, Samsung equals computer. For many old people, it's like they do not need the latest and greatest. Or even for normal person, if you're traveling to a hotel and you have to write a proper email, you want to do it on like a big screen, connect it to TV, go home, done. They could do it. It's just like, no, we want to segment our stuff because we really, really want to segment it. It's like, again, oh, this is Motorola also. Again, more companies are working on it. So this is really, really amazing. And this is one thing that if Android really puts their effort into it, they can outshine Apple exponentially. Whereas like, hey, you have a TV? Connect USB-C, computer, go home. So that's another evolution that's going to happen slowly. So this was my presentation on basically technology of the future, or basically this puppy, evolution of this puppy. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.